my 5 criteria, and I recommend this to anyone that is considering business ownership, figuring out what their ideal business looks like. What is your role in the business? What does the day-to-day look like? If there's fire damage, floods, natural disasters, and things like that, there's always going to be a demand for that. But these are what we call the unsexy types of businesses, but the demands are always there. The staff, the people that reported directly to me, was very important to keep that number smaller, reduce turnover, and just really compensate and treat the staff the best we could.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast, where you can escape the corporate trap through franchise ownership. Here's your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, the Franchise Guide.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guide. Thanks for joining us today. Wanted to do a case study today. Been getting a lot of your questions about, what is the best franchise? What are the top franchises look like? And as I mentioned on previous shows, it really depends on what you're looking for in the business, what you're looking to create. So case study I wanted to do is kind of going back when I first started and the key characteristics of the business that I was actually looking for. So with that being said, we've for the show, we're kind of making the assumption here that I decided on a franchise business for the value proposition, the support, the services, the vendors that were in place, the marketing and things like that. So, and that we covered on a previous episode, but really, I wanted to go through these key characteristics. And one thing I'll note with these key characteristics and things I was looking for in a business, there are franchise portals out there, and this is not a knock against any portals, but with the portals, you can input certain things like restaurants if you're looking at a certain industry or a certain investment level, but it really doesn't ask you any questions, right? You input the information, restaurants, and it's just going to pull up restaurants. And part of the value that we and the offering, the coaching that we offer is we dig a little bit deeper. So, in one case, I had worked with someone that just really wanted to focus on restaurants. And when we finally dug a little deeper to find out why, that person said, well, everyone has to eat multiple times a day, at least three times a day. And so I kind of took a step back and said, well, it sounds like you're looking for a business that has constant demand. And they said, well, yeah, that's actually what I was looking for. So we started looking at other types of businesses where maybe it's lower ticket, but that constant demand, customers, coming in and looking at different areas. So the portals are great. That's a question I get, but it just doesn't dig in a little bit deeper and start to ask the questions such as, why a restaurant? Anyway, with that being said, so my 5 criteria, and I recommend this to anyone that is considering business ownership, figuring out what their ideal business looks like. And by no means is there just 5 criteria. The list goes really long, and sometimes you may not know the answer. So kind of doing a little bit of digging, you can start figuring things out. So number 1, when looking at a business and how I chose my business and how I'm also using the same criteria for my next franchise is the role. A big part of franchise and business ownership is, what is your role in the business? What does the day-to-day look like? Now, keep in mind, the very beginning, especially if you've never owned the business before, it's going to be very different than 3, 4, 5 months out, or even a year out, where you're learning the business, you're setting up the LLCs and working with all the professionals, the accountants and things like that, and then finding your staff. So very interview heavy in the beginning, getting all the everything in order to launch the business. So really figuring out after launch, so just say 6 months out, what are you doing? Do you enjoy sales and going out and selling, or do you prefer more networking, B2B, Chamber of Commerce events and things like that? Or are you more introverted and just like to work on versus in the business and look at KPIs and numbers? So your role and what that looks like, get a piece of paper and start filling in the blanks. My role in the business after the business is up and running is X, and start filling in the blank. And that role can also be running it full-time or part-time. Some people leave their jobs to run the business, and other people keep their jobs. They're both options, but not every franchise will allow that. So it's good to get the key criteria in place so we can find a franchise that's a great match. Second criteria I was looking for was recession resistance. And with recession resistance, what that really means to me is looking for businesses that are not as affected by the economy. So you'll look at things such as water and smoke mitigation and restoration, right? If there's fire damage, floods, natural disasters, and things like that, there's always going to be a demand for that. These are what we call the unsexy types of businesses, but the demand's always there, kind of regardless. There are other areas too, expense reduction. People are always, a small business is always looking to reduce expenses, but especially when the economy turns south, they are looking to not only cut expenses, but maybe pivot their business. So business coaching also pretty much falls in that category. And the list goes on. There's multiple types of businesses that are going to be more recession resistant. But that was a key characteristic I was looking for, almost equally as important as my role, as I wanted that constant demand, wanted to avoid any type of fads. No brick and mortar. I did not want a physical location. Now, this is my criteria, everyone. I don't want you to think anything negatively of a brick and mortar, but I did not want a few things. Number one, I didn't want to report to a landlord and have to, have high price leases and deal with all the headaches with that. Plus, with a lot of brick and mortar types of businesses, 6-12 months, if not more, to get up and running. I wanted to cut a check for the franchise fee and get up and running much faster and not have to wait that amount of time. Again, not a negative, but these are specific things I was looking for. I did have an office in my last business, and that's okay. A much smaller expense, small office. In many cases, a lot of brands you can work directly from your home. We did not have a call center, for example, which a lot of home service brands offer. So you maybe have a franchise that offers these additional services, and there's no need for any exterior office. And maybe you do your meetings at a coffee shop once a week, or meets at a client location or customer location. So that would be the third. Next is small staff. And when I say small staff, few W-2s, W-2 employees, support staff, customer service, bookkeeping, sales, and things like that. Wanted to keep that to a minimum, open to the number of contractors that we actually work with. But the staff, the people that reported directly to me, was very important to keep that number smaller, reduce turnover, and just, really compensate and treat the staff the best we could. And then followed by, I wanted a business when it came to revenue streams. Number one, multiple revenue streams. So if a customer hired us for one revenue stream or for one service, we were able to upsell them on 5, 6, 7 additional services and really be a one-stop shop for the customer, whether it be the homeowner or the property manager, which led me into an annuity business. So these revenue streams, some of them were maybe once in a lifetime, and some of them were going to be once every month. So wanted to stagger the revenue streams, letting them know and giving the customer peace of mind that, hey, we offer multiple revenue streams. You don't need to take us up on all, but we can handle it for you. I liked it from an annuity standpoint because a lot of the services were offered monthly or at least quarterly. So we knew that, that cash flow, that money was coming in. But those are 5 criteria. And again, there are a lot more, criteria when it comes to this. And you may not know, where you want to be, brick and mortar or something home-based. And that's where we spent a lot of time in digging deep as to kind of realistic, what the differences are. The growth strategy of a brick and mortar location versus a service-based business where you're adding territories, much, much different when it comes to growing and scaling the businesses. And that's where we spent a lot of time on. But there are going to be, as I mentioned, multiple multiple criteria that we can look into. But this is a great starting point. If you want even an easier starting point, just start with the role. What your role ideally is in the business. I didn't even touch on the investment in the business. I wanted to keep this to 5, but investment would be the 6th criteria, and that list goes on, being remote, being able to run the business from afar. There's so many other characteristics that I work with every single candidate with. We spend a lot of time, and we don't rush through the process. We make sure we have a good understanding. And then sometimes on occasion, it happens where you start talking to franchise companies and realize you want to maybe switch the criteria a little bit and, maybe go more towards brick and mortar or double down on home-based service. And that's okay. That's part of the due diligence process. So again, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your feedback. Thought I would do a quick case study of how I chose my first franchise. And here, little secret, I'm using the exact same criteria to find my next franchise business as well. Nothing has really changed in the businesses themselves. So thanks again for joining. Let me know your thoughts. And if you'd like to jump on a call, book a call, go right to the website, ggthefranchiseguide.com /calendar, and book a call. Would love to help out where we can. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want to learn how to make the transition from corporate to owning your franchise, join Giuseppe on the next episode. You can also follow on all social media platforms and achieve financial and time freedom today.